future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being patient tonight. It was a little tough getting here, and tonight we are going to have a very special guest. I'm going to introduce him later, and this is a kind of a heavy topic tonight. I want to start by announcing what the topic is. It's about covert incest, and it is about emotional abuse and covert incest. And we're going to cover a lot of territory, some territory that we have covered in other episodes. And again, folks, this is a call-in show. 323-843-2826. And my name is Dr. Judy Rosenberg. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, founder of the Psychological Healing Center, and creator of the Mindmap system for healing human disconnect. And one of the aspects of human disconnect is this kind of a covert incest. And I've mentioned it before. And again, I do listen to you guys, my audience, my favorite audience, and somebody requested this a while ago. Actually, many people requested this. It's a very, very subtle topic and very, very prominent topic because it's different than sexual abuse, because sexual abuse is overt. If you're abused sexually, you would know it. You would absolutely understand the boundary violations that would have to do with sexual violations. This is much more covert and subtle, and people don't usually recognize it as abuse. And I think we have a call-in, so let's take that call-in, and then we can go into the topic and the details. Hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy. Who's this, please?
I don't know if you can actually hear me.
I can. Thank you so much for calling in. And what is your name?
My name is Raquel.
Raquel, thank you so much for calling in. And you're now aware of the topic of the show, yes? Covert incest?
Absolutely, and how perfect.
How perfect.
I know about that.
You do? Okay, so tell me your experience, please.
I do.
Yes.
Well, dear, I want to say first, I want to apologize to you because I left a comment on YouTube, and I did that with reason. I wanted to see how you would respond and if you would. You did.
I think I remember you.
You were very nice. Go ahead.
I think I remember you. We had like the sweetest interaction. It was so, go ahead. It was touched
no,
me.
Sweetheart, that probably wasn't me.
That wasn't you. It wasn't a sweet interaction.
Was my YouTube name.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I was the one that commented on the mother's jealousy, and I said, this is crap.
Okay.
And you were so nice. Do you remember?
Remind me, because I literally have.
So great.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I get so many YouTube comments, and I understand that there are different levels of pain. So let's go into what is going on with you. Maybe the comment that you made, and now we can discuss it. We can discuss it in detail. Yeah.
Well, it was about mothers. The comment was about the mothers or parents that have feelings about their children.
Yes.
And as long as they don't act them out. And it was the mother's jealousy that I responded to.
Okay.
And I told you that what you said about their feelings was crap. But you were so nice, and I was actually testing you because I lost my children 20 years ago, and they hate me.
Wow.
And the social worker involved, I've been used in satanic ritual abuse, and it followed me all my life.
Oh, my goodness.
And it went from the social workers to the judges, and
I'm so
these
sorry.
women, like my mother that hated me, actually played a part in stealing my children. And nobody believed me that I was abused.
This is so subtle, and I'm going to ask you because I will be more than happy to give you a free 15-minute consultation, okay? More than happy if we need private time. The point is that I would like to go into your experience with covert sexual abuse. And let me tell you what that
Sure.
is so that you're very clear on what
Okay.
this is. This is where
Okay.
mothers and daughters or fathers and their children, parents usually, what they do is they're using their children as kind of like little adults to share their secrets with.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
they're enmeshed with their children, and sometimes to the point where the daughter's like the little wife, and at times there
Yes.
are innuendos of sexuality, or the son is
Oh.
the little husband. Okay, or the daughter is mommy's best friend, and the little best friend gets to hear about mommy's dating and who she's
Yes.
dating, and even sexual episodes that have occurred. And there's just a non-boundaried situation, and it becomes very, very destructive. And the children, I'm going to get into it a lot more, experience symptoms. So what I'd like to focus on, if you don't mind,
Okay.
is how
Oh,
does
no.
that relate to you, and what was your experience, and all that other that
Okay.
you were experiencing. Just call me. I'll give you a free consultation on it. Okay.
Okay. I actually called you guys today, so
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the call back.
Thank you.
My mother is I had a specialist. I have complex PTSD level 9-10. He
Wow.
said there was 5 years of 5 adult lives of horrific trauma crammed into me before I was 5 years old. So
Wow. Okay.
my sister and I, she's actually in a mental hospital. She's not okay anymore. I'm
All right.
48 and she's 50. My mother's, we were actually incested physically, and I remembered that.
By who?
We had to keep a lot of secrets. My mother.
By
and,
your mother. Your mother touched you
My
inappropriately?
mother. Oh, yes. And I know that she was molesting my child now, too. That's something I came to realize.
Okay, so I just want to
We
draw a
were-
distinction just for the audience, because this is a psychoeducational
Okay.
show, and so boundaries cross over. So there, in your case, there was an overt sexual abuse. She incested you. She
Oh, yes.
touched you.
Oh, yes.
She touched your child. Okay, now covert. This covert incest is, the word covert, it's kind of under the radar. So there's no
Yes, that
touching
too.
involved, right? There's no touching involved, but there's a sense of, there's a lot of secrecy, mainly.
There is.
There could be a pact between the mother and the daughter, for example. Please don't tell so-and-so
Yes.
and such, and I'm going to tell you all the secrets about what daddy did to me, and it gets really,
Yes.
really sticky in terms of boundaries. So can you just concentrate on that part of it?
Sure.
Thank
She
you.
was too graphic. There were no boundaries as far as how she spoke to us.
Okay.
We were both her little best friends at times, telling us things that were inappropriate, using very verbal sexual conversation. Her married boyfriend of 8 years teased us about being molested and things like that. So having her talk about, things that you don't say to children,
That's
we were made
exactly
to keep
right.
those secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we knew, like if I told her it was wrong, because I was that type of child, I knew when things were wrong and when it didn't feel good, and we would get yelled and screamed at. We were choked, we were suffocated to the point of death, and we would come back and gasp. We were made to keep all her secrets, and we even seen, sexual activity. And
So this is
abuse, just way too much
right?
stuff.
But beyond. Okay, so when you have PTSD, you're not kidding. You have PTSD. You probably have complex PTSD. PTSD.
I do. It is.
Right, and let me make the distinction. PTSD is, let's say you get held up, and then for 6 months, a year or more, you just keep reliving the event, and you keep getting triggered and go into a lot of reactions to that particular event. Complex PTSD is when these events were a long time ago and they never got healed, and they reappear, and
Right.
they reappear in all forms of symptoms. So that's probably what you have going on, because
Absolutely.
the reason you have that going on is because nobody, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm off, really intervened.
I've always been alone
Yes.
with the abuser. I'm
Yes.
still in a hostage situation.
That's
and
it.
I'm not physically okay. Not
Okay.
healthy anymore.
Just curious, have you read my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect?
I have not. I'm actually going to get it. I heard one of your shows last night, and I'm going to get that book.
Okay, because you're using
I will
some of the
order that book.
terms. Okay, yes, do. Hostage situation. By the way, the new version of the book is out. So when you order the book, everybody out there, please make sure to order the 2018 version. I've got a lot of really interesting things in there to do with my own definition of words, my Dr. Judy isms, if you will, terms like...
I love them. You guys make me laugh. I crack up when I'm watching.
Okay.
You guys are hilarious.
Thank you. Terms
Thank
like
you.
double dungeon of darkness, which in this case...
I'm learning about that.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
So you understand, Rochelle, you
Yes.
can't turn to your mother. You can't turn to your father. You can't turn inward.
Never had anyone.
Never had anyone. So you're locked in this
No.
dark space of double dungeon of darkness, and the blueprints are
Right.
terrible, and you're being infected with all of their information and their boundarylessness, right? And so,
yes,
yeah.
and I've been in. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I've had counseling for 20 years off and on, and I made the realization today that it's been wonderful. It's been great having all these people that I can talk to. I've had very good counselors, but I'm at a place where I need to heal physically from this, because I know I'll be dead in 2 years. I'll either end my own life or I'm going to succumb to cancer. And I killed myself with 234 sleeping pills and a bottle of alcohol in 2009, and was brought back and put back into the same abuse. I was dead.
Well, look, the thing is,
because I was trying to escape the abuse.
Of course, because there is no escape when you're a child. When you're an adult, sometimes there is an escape, and sometimes it seems like there's no escape.
There has never been,
and
for
sometimes
me.
There's no escape because of the psychoviruses. That's another term I invented.
Right.
The psychological viruses that enter into our heads. They're the messages. They're the blueprint that reverberate in our head way past even past the point of adulthood, and into, even if our parents die, the messages are still there. So just because they're gone, whether physically or because you've moved away from them, or some form of they're gone, they're still not gone. Okay, so
no, exactly, and I don't know how to stop the cycle. And I was telling my therapist recently, I don't understand what it is. My PTSD specialist said, Raquel, you're a wonderful person. You're not jaded. I don't understand how you never turn to drugs or alcohol. But he said, I just don't understand why people respond to you the way that they do. And I understand from listening to you, it's starting to make sense, and things are starting to come to me that I didn't remember. And I feel safe with you, because everything that I've ever known and tried to explain even to professionals, you are saying.
Well, thank you.
The hostage thing, I've said that my whole life. I'm a hostage, and people don't understand.
Right.
When you have no one to turn to and you're not safe, you stay put, because it's better to get raped by one person than a bunch of people out on the street. And I've been in that too.
Stay on the line, because I'm going to go more into effects of this kind of abuse on people, okay? Emotional incest and the relationship. And what happens, and I want to ask you this, some people become very avoidant, okay? A relationship avoidant. And if you hear background noise, it's only because my grandson is a little bit loud.
Okay.
So, grandson, could you please be a little quiet, grandson? Okay. Thank you. And he will come on the air later. He's busy trying to watch a movie while his grandmother is teaching. And later he's going to come on.
It must be nice to have a wonderful grandmother. I'm so happy that he has that.
It's so sweet, and I'm such the luckiest person, I feel. And he was with me today at the Psychological Healing Center, and he was teaching Mindmap therapy, and I'm going to have him come on later on in the show to give his version of the Mindmap. And so, and also in the
That is fantastic. The way you have that, I can't believe that people told you that was not going to work. It's perfect, and I understand
perfect for
it,
children.
And I have such hope.
It's perfect for children. They understand it. Right. Okay, so let me go into
I'll stay on.
Yeah, okay. Just stay on, because we could relate this to you, and then I'll make room for other people to call in as well. What happens to emotionally incested people is they have a hard time forging a close and committed, loving relationship. Okay, does that apply to you? That at times you might feel that you're suffocating. If somebody gets too close to you, you might feel like you're suffocating. Is that true or false for you?
That does happen. It does.
Okay.
I do love people, and I think I love too easily, but I always end up with the abuser.
Okay.
My mother was a malignant narcissist and a psychopath.
Okay, so you have so many layers going on here.
Yes.
Okay, and so what I'd like to do, first of all, obviously you're invited to do the mind map therapy. Everyone listening is invited to do the mind map therapy. You can do it via the video, the mind map video series, which if you would be so kind as to put that up, and thank you.
Okay.
And there's the mind map video series, and you can download it. It comes with a PDF version of the book. And it's me talking and breaking down the entire mind map system. It's probably about 8 to 10 hours worth of listening time.
Wonderful.
And a case study and the peaceful healing dialogue. And although I don't go specifically into every single psychopathology, I do talk a lot about narcissism. I do talk a lot about the flow going wrong, where the mother and the infant have a different dynamic, where instead of the mother protecting the infant, it's the infant protecting the mother. Okay,
that was us.
So this is it. And so I'm gonna get off this call with you so I can make room for other people.
Thank you, dear. I appreciate
and
your
call
time.
in. Okay, and we have sliding scale therapists available, and so please call in and if you can't afford the doctors on the team and the licensed people on the team, just call in and we'll find somebody for you. We'll find a way to do it. Okay,
can I actually hang up the phone so I can listen?
Yeah,
of course. Enjoy the rest of it and listen to everyone else. Okay, thank you, dear. You have a great night.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Where
much
are you
for
calling from?
All.
What state are you calling from?
I'm in Oklahoma. I actually lived in California when I lost my children.
All right.
And all that
I love
happened.
to know where people are calling from. So thank you so much for that.
Thank
And
you.
so I just want to go on and describe a little bit about one of my favorite theorists, Dr. Murray Bowen. He talks about the multi-generational transmission process, and he talks about the Bowen family system. And a lot of the concepts that I use in the mind map system have to do with him. One of the concepts that he talks about is when we are undifferentiated, emotional fusion and differentiation of self. So I want to read a little bit to you about Dr. Murray Bowen, and he created concepts like triangulation and enmeshment, and concepts like multi-generational transmission process of psychopathology, which many of you are very familiar with if you've been watching the Mind Map shows and have been participating in the Mind Map system. Okay, so what is this? Emotional fusion and differentiation of self. So many times I've mentioned that in order to form healthy independence, you have to have healthy dependence. It's just that when our parents don't want to let us go, when our parents need us for emotional fuel, then they don't let us launch out into the world. They don't let us separate and individuate. So therefore, we become fused upon their encouragement. And so just a little bit about the definition, Murray Bowen's definition. Fusion or lack of differentiation is where individuals' choices are set aside in the service of achieving harmony within the system. And again, this is a system gone wrong. So when mom is weak, when dad is weak, when one of the family members is weakened, and they need their children to lean on, they need their children to be their little best friend, it becomes a problem. So this is what happens when there is an emotional fusion. So I want you to go for a moment, if you will, to panel number 7. Thank you. And so panel number 7 actually represents the paradigm shift, but in this case, it represents vampiring, okay? It represents a really, really unhealthy engulfment of the child, okay? And when the child is engulfed, what happens is that, again, they give up their self in favor of the good they give up themselves in favor of helping mom or dad emotionally. And sometimes they're described as very mature children. They're described as grown up before their time. They're super responsible. And so the children's philosophy becomes, I'm not okay until my mom or dad are okay. And in order for me to be okay, I have to make them okay. So they allow themselves, because as children, remember, we are permeable membranes. Let's go to panel 1 for a minute and look at the psyche. Thank you. We're very permeable as babies, as children, and we allow a lot of emotional nourishment in, and we also allow for a lot of poison to come in. So when that individual starts fusing with a parent, there's a lack of differentiation. So not only is the child having a dependency on that parent, they're actually forging an undifferentiated mass. So mother and child become one. And because mother or father or some form of parent does not want that child to separate and individuate because they need them for emotional supply, what happens is that the child's structure, their ego structure, their structure of the sense of self is really vampired by that parent. So instead of synergy, instead of developmental health, they become fused. And sometimes you see this in let me just go on with a little bit more. Bowen's research led him to suggest that various degrees of fusion are discernible in all families. Differentiation, by contrast, is described as the capacity of the individual to function autonomously by making self-directed choices, by remaining emotionally connected to the intensity of a significant relationship system, meaning that they've launched from the original parental dyad and can now forge healthy relationships. So one of the symptoms of people who experience this sort of like a enmeshment, covert incest, is they just feel like they are not able to forge healthy relationships. And so oftentimes when they enter into a relationship, they become avoidant. So I'm going to go back to this emotional incest and the avoidant. What happens is that when they become close and in a committed, loving relationship, they feel that they're suffocating. They feel that the other is making demands on them. They are not feeling prepared to meet their emotional needs. And this is because they were too smothered during the period of what was supposed to be separation and individuation. And so, again, they're replicating what the Freud, they choose people, let's say, that may be over smothering, and then they attempt to push away because they're actually trying to complete a developmental step that they never really completed in their years of being a child. And again, I want to remind you, they're not really having that opportunity to be that child because they have to act like parents in the face of their own parents. So this is a covert kind of thing, and oftentimes people don't even know what they've gotten themselves into. And so I want to enumerate some experiences that some symptoms that result from this kind of abuse. So codependent behavior, that makes sense because they're leaning on and leaned upon. Guilt about practicing self-care, especially when the offending parent is concerned, where the offending parent is concerned, because again they feel guilty about putting their own needs before the needs of their parent. Over-identification with their own child, unwittingly creating the same dynamic, what I call the WTF, the multi-generational transmission process of pathology to the next generation. Difficulties relating to sexual identity or gender, especially when they've been emotionally incested and overstimulated, then sex becomes an area of overstimulation and can easily result in dysregulated feelings of inadequacy, love-hate relationships with offending parents. They love them, but then again, they feel engulfed by them and want to push them away. Difficulty in maintaining relationships due to abusive individuals' idealization and devaluation of others, and inappropriate expectations placed on their partners. Compulsive behaviors including sex, substance abuse, alcohol, work, food. So it forges what I call the hole in the soul. And this hole in the soul creates a sense of emptiness. And because it was never filled with nourishment, it was never filled with what John Bowlby, my other favorite theoretician, speaks of, mirroring, eye contact, skin contact, attunement to the child, because children that are engulfed and enmeshed with and experience this never really get the psychological vitamins, if you will, and so they're left with a hole in the soul, and then they go off to fill this hole in the soul with sex and drugs and food and computer games and so and on, and it becomes compulsive and addictive. And then another pattern that emerges is triangulation, indirect communication in work, family, or romantic relationships. And I want to go to Marie Bowen's definition because he's the master of these terms. Bowen describes triangles as the smallest stable relationship unit. So in other words, think about a stool with 3 legs. So if the parents are 2 of the stools and they're not strong enough to hold up the family system, then they will lean on that 3rd leg, and that 3rd leg might be the child. And when the child is leaned on too hard, well, again, they don't have the emotional bandwidth to sustain such a thing. But Bowen always spoke of triangulating. Triangulating is said to occur when the inevitable anxiety in a dyad or couple is relieved by involving a vulnerable third party who either takes sides or provides a detour for the anxiety. And this is often another problem. Children dragged in to the marital conflict. Children who are dragged in because the couple does not know conflict resolution, and they themselves don't have the emotional maturity to lean on each other. And so that child will become, in essence, the stabilizing force in the relationship, and the relationship is not stable to begin with. The child cannot possibly stabilize an unstable situation. So very often this will result in the family falling apart. And so you can see we're going from panel 3, which represents metaphorically mom and dad and the stability of the family and the children growing upon the ladder of stability. And when the parents are not strong enough to maintain that family unit, when the children are covertly drawn into the system, when they're given too much information, when they become the best friend, you could see what happens. Panel 4, 5, and 6. Chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And why? Because it's not sustainable. There's no way a system like this is sustainable. So, covert incest is an emotional abuse that people are just not only do they not talk about, but sometimes they're not even aware that this is happening. It's a type of emotional abuse, as I mentioned, in which a parent relies on the child for emotional support. They parentify their child, they enmesh and hypersexualize by talking to them in hyper-arousing ways, in a way that the child is not equipped or mature enough to handle. They overstimulate their children sexually. Children don't know what to do with this overload of sexual information, so oftentimes they might go into masturbatory habits and watching porn and projecting their sexuality onto other people, engaging in early sexual behavior themselves. So you can really see how this is a system gone wrong. The danger of covert incest is that it often results in the needs of a parent superseding that of the needs of the child, and it interferes with the normal development. Boundaries are non-existent, and the victims of this kind of treatment, they start to implode. So what's the final stage here is soon their defenses, which we spoke about, the drinking, the drugs, the porn, the over-sexualizing, the different levels of addiction, filling the hole in the soul, it breaks down. And so the defenses break down, and then they start to implode into depression, and they can't sustain relationships, and some of them don't even want to go into relationships because it's experiences a smothering experience. And Marie Bowen talks about each generation devolving and breaking down into more and more levels of mental unhealth. And especially when there's a divorce or death or mental illness where one spouse is unavailable to the other to fulfill the needs, these are areas, circumstances under which this will become very, very heavy, and the damage can be even more detrimental to the family. And everybody, this is a call-in show, and I'm welcoming more call-ins. Area code 323-843-2826. And please do call in and share your experience of being covertly incested. I know it's a heavy topic. I'm sure we will revisit this topic many, many times over the course of these YouTube episodes. And for those of you who have not seen the episodes that pertain to this, watch Complex PTSD. You can watch Effects of Narcissistic Mothers or Narcissistic Fathers on Your Children, and even the episode Grieving the Parents That You Never Had, because in essence, these are not really parental parents. So even though they have parental roles, people often feel like they never had parents because they're the parents of the parents, which is very confusing and very harmful, and it's almost as though the children don't have a childhood after all. People would often comment, this is a case study that I had, people would often comment about one of my patients that she was super mature and super an adult, and she was an old soul. And yes, grandson, you'll be on very, very soon. My grandson cannot wait to share the Mindmap with all of you guys. And so I'll have him on in a little while. I just want to get this topic a little bit more defined. And okay, I guess, Alexander, you have a burning desire to come on air, right? I'm going to sit back down. I'm going to take another call, okay? And please call in 323-843-2826. And so we're going to answer some more calls as my grandson is very busy watching dinosaurs. So please do call in, 323-843-2826. I have time for one or two more calls. And I'm going to shrink the tune before my grandson comes on air because I do want to shrink the tune. It's called Numb by Linkin Park. And the words are very pertinent to the theme of this show. I'm tired of being what you want me to be, feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. So this is a person who obviously has been roped in or enmeshed and demanded upon to be a certain way. I don't know what you're expecting of me, put under the pressure of walking in your shoes, caught in the undertow. I just caught in the undertow of the family system, obviously, and there's a call in. So let's take that call in and I'll put a pause on this. Go ahead. Hi, you're on the couch with Dr. Judy.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a quick question. What happens when you have tragedy or someone like your kids have pretty severe to moderate, I mean, you know, they require a lot of attention, so you kind of get enmeshed just from that fact alone.
I think that's a great question. Yes. Okay.
Doesn't that contribute to you? I mean, it's like you're caught between a rock and a hard place. You want to give them the necessary attention, but you don't want to overdo it.
I think that's an excellent question, and I think that is an area where people can become enmeshed with their children. Let's say your child is very, very sick, or there's some sort of a tragedy in your child's life, and you become very, very close. Well, and by the way, what is your name, please?
Charlie.
Charlie, thank you so much for calling in, and where are you calling from?
Alabama.
Oh, hi, Charlie. How you doing? Nice to hear your voice.
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Okay. So this is a situation where obviously you don't want to think of it as necessarily you're this horrible parent and taking away your child's freedom. You just have to be very, very careful and give your child the support where the child really needs the support, and let them make their own mistakes and let them fall where they're able to fall, and you're there to catch them. Does that make sense? So what you're looking for is a sense of balance. You don't want to smother them so that you disable them, so to speak. And on the other hand, you don't want to not be there for them. So you kind of balance. And how do we grow? We grow through our failures. So we've got to let our children fail. We have to let them fall. If they don't fall, they don't learn how to stand. And if we're there putting little pillows under their butt all the time, well, that's not such a good idea.
Thank you, Dr. Judy.
You're so welcome.
It's just I like to hear someone with your credentials and your smarts to say that. It just makes me feel better.
Does that make sense
that's
to you?
That's all I got to say.
That, like,
I'm just going to say I really appreciate your show, and you're remarkable. You're wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. Good night. And yes, that's an area where balance, okay? And I think we have another caller, so we'll take that caller. And hi, this is Dr. Judy. You're on the couch. And who is this, please?
Hi. My name is Michelle Cruz.
Hi, Michelle. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Palmdale, California.
Nice to hear your voice. And how do you relate to this topic?
Well, I just recently found out, like, over the past year or two, that my mother's a narcissist.
Okay.
And growing up, I felt like my dad would always tell me his problems with my mom.
Yes, there's an example. Exactly.
Yes, and so my mom would tell my brother her problems.
Yeah.
And then because of that, I always felt that my mom was jealous of me, and my dad would tell me all the time, "Your mother's jealous of you," and I would be like, "Why is she jealous of me? What is she jealous of me about?"
Yeah.
And now I know what it is now that I'm older.
Yes.
You know?
And you see here's what happens. The parents set the table for the pathology to occur. So they set up the dominoes, so to speak, and then the dominoes will fall on your head. Proverbially speaking, they'll fall on your head. So in other words, what's your dad doing telling you about mom in the first place? Don't you think they should be working it out between the two of them?
Yeah.
And so
yes, I totally agree, but I guess he could not. He felt like he can never tell my mom. Like I guess he wasn't comfortable because I feel like my dad. Now that I know a little bit more about narcissism,
yes,
my dad was an enabler.
It sounds
and I just
that
felt
way.
like he wasn't comfortable enough to tell his feelings to my mom.
That's correct.
Because maybe she belittled him. I don't know, But he would always tell me his feelings and how she would make him feel all the time.
And how do you think that impacted you now as an adult?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. My dad just recently passed away. I don't know. I feel like I can't get peace kind of from this because it's like he's gone. And I can't have a mature talk. I tried to have a mature conversation, but he was dying.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to just be there for him respectfully,
Yes.
in the end.
Yes.
But I found all this out when he was dying, about my mom and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so
it was crazy.
Okay, so I want to tell you that the way you close the emotional files is you've got to process these feelings. And oftentimes people will try to go to the people who hurt them to get closure with those people. And it's not always a good idea because, as I say in my book, I say in my videos, I say in my therapy, and my staff says in the therapy, the Mindmap therapy, the herder cannot be the healer. It's like going to the person who beat you up to say, I want you to really take ownership of beating me up, and I want you to apologize to me and make good with me and soothe my pain about your beating me up. And if the person is capable of beating you up, they probably don't have a lot of empathy, so they'll just re-injure you, probably just punch you in the nose and tell you to get out of here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's my mom, and
Right.
then I always try to tell her, like, kind of a little bit, because now that I know about narcissism, I understand she could never validate me, and especially of the past and, like, how she made me feel, or about my dad,
Okay.
Okay. But, like, I would try to tell her a little bit, like, you know what, Mom, that what you said hurt me, or just, like, a little bit, and, like, she just completely just ignores it.
Well,
completely
because
ignores it. And so,
right, again, this is a perfect example of her feelings before your feelings, and she's not willing to take responsibility or ownership. Your father wasn't willing. It's too bad that parents are not required to go through therapy, hopefully Mindmap therapy, so that they can heal their childhood wounds before having their children. I mean, we certainly have to take classes to drive a car. We have to take all kinds of courses in order to pass certain tests. It's interesting that we are not required to study up on how to become good parents and good family members. It's a shame. Hopefully I'm trying to change that. So in the meantime, one way that you could clean up the mess is obviously by going back into the wounds of your childhood and how they encoded in you, and reprocess these feelings, not with your mother, obviously not with your father because he's gone. Therapeutically reprocess these feelings so that they will be closed, the files will be closed, the psychological files will be closed, and then you can start healing. Okay?
I'm actually doing that now. I moved away from my family and my mother.
Okay.
I still talk to my mother, but I have a lot of barriers up, and so I kind of don't let her hurt me, or I don't let her say things to me. Or
I think that's a great idea, because if she boundary violated you then, or at least for sure your father did, but in a sense they both did, then you can't walk back in and expect something healing to come out of it. And chances are your mother's not currently working on herself and doing her therapeutic process. So in order for us to stay safe, we cannot allow ourselves to be re-injured, which is why I picked the song Numb, because numb represents when people go to that final degree of cutting themselves off. They become so numb they can't even feel anymore. And so that's not a good place to be either, because we cannot allow ourselves to cut all our emotions, because then we're living life through behind a glass wall, and we don't experience it in full force. So thank you so much for calling in. Feel free to take advantage of the free consultation, and the book is available. The Mindmap video series is available. And one other announcement I want to make is that in September, I'm going to be hosting the first Mindmap group, and it'll take place in 3 Sundays. And if you're interested, it's a lot less expensive than coming to see me individually. It'll be hosted at the Psychological Healing Center. I'm really excited about it because we're going to spend 3 Sundays, probably from around 9 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in the beautiful Psychological Healing Center, which is a real haven of an office to do this kind of work. I'll be leading the journey. And people are welcome to do early registration. If you do, you will be offered a discount. So please call the Psychological Healing Center, which is 310-739-4491. You can enroll and grab a spot, and I'm going to keep it to medium small group. Very excited about it, and people can come from wherever, the Los Angeles area or from all over the world, and learn the mind map process and process their feelings and close the emotional files. So I'll talk more about that next episode as well. And so at this juncture, I want to call up my little grandson, Alexander Jonathan Perlmutter. You want to come up here? Yeah. Come up here. Come, join Grandma and be my guest. All right, and I'm going to put the headphones on you. I think we might need a little bit of help. Here's your microphone. Okay, this is really, really cool. I think we need a little help here.
But please tell me what to say, okay?
I will tell you what to say, but you kind of know what to say because you're so good at this. Because Alexander, my grandson, is almost 6 years old. Correcto?
Hello, I'm Dr. Perlmutter, and I'm here to tell you about the mind map.
That's awesome. Well, there's a boo-boo. Okay, put panel 1 up, and you can see the wounds of childhood. That's the boo-boo, right? Yeah. When somebody hurts you, hurts your feelings, hurts you. And then what's panel 2?
Panel 2 is when the boo-boo actually hurts.
That's the ouch, right? And that's the reactions to the wound. And please put up the panel 2, yes? And panel 3 is what?
When you think you're a bad boy.
When you think you're a bad boy or girl or bad person, right?
Or you're a bad lady or a bad man.
When you think you are bad, right. And what's panel 4?
Panel 4 is when everything goes crazy.
Yep. Just like that, when everything goes. I think Alexander just did a panel 4 right here. Yeah. That was perfect, Alexander. Alexander just demonstrated panel 4. Go ahead, tell everyone what's panel 4.
When everything goes crazy.
Everything goes crazy. And what's panel 5?
Like the headphones were flying off.
Pretty much. That was panel 4. That was perfect. And what's panel 5?
Panel 5 is when you push each other away.
Yeah, push each other away, right? You become defensive and you push each other away. And how about panel 6?
Panel 6, you fight, you hit,
yep,
and you scream at other people.
That's right. That's panel 6, when you're breaking down. And what's panel 7?
Pal says when you get along.
When you get along. And what's panel 8?
Panel 8 is teamwork.
Exactly. When we're working as a team and we're sharing
And then peace.
And then that panel 9 is peace. Okay, so let me ask you something.
Peace is good for you because you can rest and like hang out with your friends.
Exactly. And so what do we do if you and me, when we get into, sometimes we have a fight, correct?
We talk it out.
We talk it out. Exactly. And we use the peaceful healing dialogue to talk it out.
Yep.
And we
Grandma,
do.
I never talked on the microphone.
No, I know. You did such a good job. So I really congratulate you. You've been like the best guest ever.
At least now we're doing another show.
We're going to do another show, and I'm going to have Alexander on about how to talk to kids. And so how kids talk to adults and how to talk to kids and what to do when children's feelings are hurt. Because I think being a kid, you're kind of an expert, correct?
Wait, let me tell you something.
What?
Let's start the show now.
Okay. All right. Well, Alexander, I've got to thank you. You've been an awesome guest. He's also in the video, the Mindmap video series, and he breaks everything down, and you did a fantastic job tonight. Super proud of you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for calling in, and please feel free to reach out for a free consultation, and please feel free to call the Psychological Healing Center for any questions, comments, suggest shows. And of course, if you like us, then like us on Yelp, like us on Amazon.com, where the book is now, the new version of the book is out.
What's it called again?
The Psychological Healing Center.
Oh.
That's right.
Bye, and please watch the Psychological Healing Center.
Thank you, Alexander, for being my guest, my very special guest. Good night, everyone.